Okay, welcome to today's talk. So, today we're going to talk about recovery. Okay, I've split it up into four sections. So, we have our mobility, our sleep, our nutrition, and habits. It's going to be just a quick run through. Hopefully, you take something away from this, gain some knowledge to help you when you're not training and you're focused on recovery. So, we get straight into mobility. Most people make the mistake thinking mobility is how flexible you are. That is one important pillar of the tree that mobility is made up of. The other two are stability and motor function. Okay, so flexibility, that we all know, is the ability for the muscles or soft tissues surrounding a joint to lengthen. Stability is the ability for the muscles slash soft tissues surrounding a joint to stabilize it throughout its range of motion. And then also motor function is the ability to initiate and maintain a quality movement. So if we just look at the anatomy here, we have the different major joints in the body. Inherently, every joint has a role to play, and different joints play different roles. The two main roles you will find is one joint is going to focus on being mobile and moving a lot, and other joints are going to focus on limiting movement for stability. Okay, so if we start with the ankle joint is very stable, moves in circles up and down, left and right. So you want to avoid stiff ankles. You want to keep them very mobile and very loose. Your knee, though, that has limited movement. It moves like a hinge on a door. It doesn't necessarily move in all different crazy directions. And that joint is inherent in stability. Okay, the next one up then is the hip, which is mobile like the ankle. Lumbar spine or lower back is meant to be stable. And the T spine, which is our upper back, is meant to be mobile. Now, what we're going to focus on in mobility routines is stabilizing the joints that need to be stable. So you may stabilize them through strength routines, would be the number one place. So, for your knee to be stable and stuff like this, performing good quality squats and lower body movements. And that will also help keep your lower back stable if performed properly. Then movements that will mobilize these joints are also the same strength movements, but sometimes our mobile joints, like our hips and our ankles and our upper back, become stiff through postural issues or lifestyle or jobs, anything like this. So we need to do mobility routines to loosen them back up. So I've included some here. So the first one is for ankle mobility. Now, when you're doing a mobility routine, you should do a test at the beginning, okay? Then you should do shit, and then you will retest, and then you will generally do something to lock it in so your body has recognized it as a new pattern, a new movement that you will perform. So for our ankle mobility, we do an ankle test, okay? It's all laid out here so you can follow along. Then we do shit. So if you click the link where it says ankle mobility, that picture in the middle, that's a link to an ankle mobility routine I designed for you. You can do that, then retest, and then perform the prescribed exercises at the bottom, and this will lock in that new range of motion in the ankle. Okay. Next, then, is a hip mobility routine. So the exact same concept. Test, do shit, retest, and lock it in. So we do a squat test. Then again, you can click the pictures here. So hip mobility is a hip mobility routine. It'll take you to I perform. And then we do the squat test. And last but not least, we do a squat lock in. And in that squat tips video, there's good ways that you can lock in the new movement, but also just generally tips on improving your squat movement. Okay. Now we move into sleep. Very important as part of your recovery is sleep, and it should be prioritized. Okay. Don't leave it as an afterthought. So here's 5 tips for sleep. Number 1 is a routine, which should be the anchor. So have a time you go to sleep and a time that you wake up, and be as consistent as possible. So lads, you don't have to adhere to a routine 100%, because that's impossible with the busy life we live and all the variables, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. So even 70, 80, 90% adherence to a routine will give you 70, 80, 90% of the benefits. So if you can't do 100% of a routine, that's no reason to give up on it. So try to have a sleep routine. Tip number 2 is 8 hours. Is 8 hours optimal? Okay, so aim for 8 hours, but adjust it according to your needs. Some people feel 6 hours is when they feel refreshed and they've gotten a good sleep. Some people 8 and some people 9 or 10. So you just experiment yourself, see which one suits you best. And then number 3, have a sleep ritual. So before going to sleep, start to actually think about your sleep about an hour to 2 hours before it, and regulate your screen time, control the light levels in the house if you have dimmer switches and stuff like this, or turn as many lights off, only leave lights on that you actually need, and regulate your activities. So we will try not to spike our heart rate or raise cortisol levels by having high levels of activity before bed, okay? Number 4 is our body temperature. It's very important to regulate your body temperature when going to sleep, okay? Now, at the moment, it's very hot here, so it's difficult. But here's some tips. So one is, don't consume substantial portions of protein too close to bedtime, okay? Have you ever heard of the meat sweats? Well, it is a real thing. When you consume protein-rich food, your body temperature slightly rises, and it needs to do that to process the food. But when you're going to sleep, your body temperature wants to lower slightly. So these conflict each other and can disrupt your sleep, okay? So also regulate room temperature. So maybe even opening a window an hour or so before you go to bed. Don't wait till you go to bed, then open the window. Try to set the temperature of the room prior to going to sleep. And then last but not least, lads, is performance enhancing drugs, HGH. So it's a legal way of taking performance enhancing drugs to get good quality sleep, okay? HGH is human growth hormone, okay? And it's only elevated for prolonged period of times when we are in sleep. So this aids with tissue growth and repair, and it's done through the process of collagen synthesis. So if you're not getting good quality sleep, you're not optimizing how much time you get for HGH to actually have tendon and muscle recovery and stuff like this from your training. So you're actually missing out on some drugs there. So next then is our nutrition. So again, like sleep, it's a routine that you anchor yourself to is the best tip I can give. So ask yourself, do you have a routine? Do you eat 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day? Do you eat 1 meal a day? And some people are just snacking throughout the day and just eating a meal when they can. Try to create a routine. So go for 3 or 5 or 1, whichever suits you, and try to stick to that routine as best you can. And like I said with the sleep, 70, 80, 90% adherence to a plan will still give you 70, 80, 90% of the benefits. So definitely try to adhere to a routine. Number 2 is balance for nutrition, okay? So try to make your meals macro balanced. Try to include portions of proteins, fats, carbs, and also include micronutrient content such as either fruits or vegetables. So try to have this in as many meals as you can throughout the day, and they should be well rounded then. Number 3 is control your environment. So if it's not in the gaff, you can't eat it. And I mean junk food. So don't go to the shops either for lunch. Bring your own lunch to work. Because if you go into the shops, that environment is going to dictate what you're going to eat. Things are going to appeal to you. So if you actually pack and prepare a lunch as part of your routine, you don't expose yourself to them environments that are going to try and sell you junk food. And then we're going to get into some supplements here, okay? This is my recommended stack, okay? If you can take these, that's great. You don't have to, but there is benefits. Number 1 is creatine. That's number 1 because it's probably the one that's going to give you the biggest return on investment when it comes to performance, okay? Even in people who are trained athletes, we'll see an up to 8% increase in their strength, okay? In their strength training and their performance. So that's a huge benefit, especially for something that is a supplement and not so much like a performance enhancing drug. It kind of sounds like that when you think 8% increase. It leads to faster recovery too. So in between your training sessions, your recovery is going to speed up as well. So it's a no-brainer to take some creatine, okay? Vitamin D is important for immune function and calcium absorption, and it performs other roles in the body too. These are just 2 of the highlight ones. So very important because we are all deficient in vitamin D, okay? And the standard blood test you get at the doctors doesn't even test for vitamin D. So you probably won't even know if you just get the standard blood panel your GP gives you. You would have to go looking for a blood test specifically to only find out you're deficient. So you might as well just supplement it daily, okay? Last one then, or sorry, not the last, second last, is our fish oils. So EFA stands for essential fatty acids. What essential means is that your body can't create these. It needs to consume them from the environment. So that's why essential fatty acids are contained in such oily fishes as salmon and the likes, okay? So we need to consume them to get these. Otherwise, we're missing out. They have anti-inflammatory properties. They also aid cardiac function, which is the function of your heart, and cognitive function, the function of the brain. So these are of massive benefits. The standard recommendation is a minimum of 3 portions of oily fish per week spread out throughout the week. Most of us don't do that. Who eats 3 fillets of salmon spread out throughout the week? A lot of people don't. So if you take a daily fish oil supplement, you're making sure you're getting your fish oils in. The last one is one that flies under the radar. It's magnesium, okay? Magnesium supplements can give massive benefits, okay? They provide enzyme support. They actually support the formation of about 300 enzymes in the body, and them enzymes perform lots of different roles, okay? For example, here I have protein synthesis. That's PS. Protein synthesis is the formation of proteins throughout the body, and this will pulse throughout the day and the week, and it will help with the formation of new muscle tissue, repairing muscle tissue from training and stresses. So you want to optimize this window every time you get protein synthesis. You want it to work as best as it can. Okay, it also aids muscle and nerve function. So muscle and nerve function are 2 things that work together in strength training and any sort of performance. So you want to optimize the functions of the nervous system and skeletal muscle. Then it also helps regulate blood glucose levels. So regulating blood glucose levels is important for steady energy levels throughout the day, but also long-term regulation of blood glucose will help you avoid metabolic issues like diabetes down the line. It also helps with blood pressure regulation, okay? And funny enough, diabetes, blood pressure are 2 of the factors in metabolic syndrome. So it's helping you out with not just your performance, but your actual vitality and your longevity and health going forward. Lastly, we have some habits. So these are just some simple tips here, lads, just to take away. So a simple habit is one that causes little disruption to your current routine. So a simple habit is generally one that is less complex. You can actually pick it up a lot quicker in your routine and it doesn't disrupt too much, okay? And so an example of this would be have a pint glass of water in the morning, every morning, okay? And most people will go, okay, I think I could do that. It wouldn't disrupt my routine too much. But next we have complex habits, okay? So it's one that will significantly cause disruption to your routine, okay? So if I said to you, get up in the morning, have a glass of water, do 20 burpees, 20 backflips, run around the block, come in, take 17 different supplements, okay? Then start to prepare your breakfast. Already I'm getting a headache. So this is where people fail with trying to build habits, is they generally start with habits that are too complex. And it sets them up to fail because not only are complex habits harder to perform on a daily basis, they actually take way longer to become a habit. So you have to go for a long period of time without slipping up. And that's why people fail so much. They make it too complex. So keep it simple and then stack simple habits on top of each other would be the best approach, which is we're getting into habit stacking. So link new habits to existing ones. So if you have a new habit where you want to read a page or a chapter of a book every day, okay, well, you need to control your environment because that has a massive effect on your decisions and your habits. So you might place that book on the pillow of your bed every day so that when you go to bed, you see it and it reminds you, oh, I better read a page. And you'll read the page. If you keep that book in the drawer or on the bookshelf, that thing's never going to get read. Okay, so a fruit bowl in the kitchen is another example. People will put fruit in presses or in the corners or in the fridges even. If you put a fruit bowl out and put it in a high traffic area in the kitchen that you pass multiple times throughout the day, you're increasing your chances for picking up some fruit and consuming it. It's very simple, lads, but we all miss out on these little things. Even me, when I'm trying to learn new habits, these are the things I try to implement. And then how do you know when something is a habit? How can we tell? So usually 2 things happen, okay? It becomes automatic. So you don't actually consciously think about it or make yourself do it. You're just doing it on automatic. This is a very good sign for good habits, not for bad ones. And then number 2 is it feels weird without them. So an example would be, imagine you got up in the morning, did your regular routine, but you just didn't brush your teeth and then you left the house. You know, I would imagine most of us would feel weird going, oh man, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? And that's a sign that, like, yeah, well, that's a habit. That's why you feel like that, because when you missed out on it, you felt weird. Or maybe you even had a bit of a negative feeling. Now, this works both ways for good habits and bad habits. So in the grand scheme of things, you don't necessarily have to think of habits as good and bad or healthy or not healthy. Just think of habits as little systems that you perform throughout the day. Some of them benefit you, some of them don't benefit you, some of them actually might harm you. So understanding them rather than thinking of them as good or bad is much more productive. Okay, so this is just some simple tips that you can try out yourself. And that concludes the talk for today. So hopefully some of these tips help you gain some knowledge to improve your recovery in between training sessions, and it might even improve quality of life day to day too.